So this is a guide for chaining Abra into Tailo manips for Pokemon Emerald Glitchless speedruns. Got notes on camera right, which is left. Flow timer is right next to me. Yeah, and then gameplay below. This is console below. I will be using a emulator a little bit later just to explain stuff for ease, but I'm proving everything works on console. So we're going to go through Abra Manip first, and then explaining how to chain Tailos from that. This guide presumes you are familiar with the Emerald speedrun in general, and with manipulations in general. If you're not, check out Exarion's guide to manipulating Mudkips and the extended Manip. I'll link it in the description below. It's a good introduction to it. Okay, for starters, where you're going to save will depend on a few factors. Well, two, actually. First one is if you have a wireless adapter. It looks like that. This is useful for speedruns in general. It will save you about 5 seconds across the whole run if you have this plugged in. It lowers the amount of lag you get when you soft reset, when you load into the game, and a couple of buildings that you walk into. The fact that it lowers the lag on soft reset will change your offsets, which is an important factor in this. The other factor is whether you have a dry battery or not. To show you'll know whether you have a dry battery, whenever you start your game, and you get to the continue on new game screen, it comes up with this message which says internal batteries run dry, the game can be played. This is ideal for speedruns, is to have this dry battery. It stops random phone calls, which on average will save you time across your speedruns. It, however, creates an issue for some manips because it takes time to get through this text box. Doesn't matter what your text box speed is set to, that will always scroll through at the same rate. So if you look at the notes, if you have the wireless adapter, regardless of whether you've got dry battery or not, you can use these top offsets and save in this spot, which is what I will be showing throughout this guide. I have the wireless adapter, I have a dry battery. I'm going to go plug this in, 2 seconds. It is annoyingly finicky to get in. If you don't have the wireless adapter, but you also don't have a dry battery, you can do exactly the same manip, saving in the same space. You just need to adjust your offsets backwards about 0.07-ish. I have got no way of confirming if this works as well as I think it should. In theory it should, but I'm not 100% sure. But you should just be able to adjust your offset to what you need. That should be close-ish. If you don't have a wireless adapter, and you do have a dry battery, and this will be most people don't have the wireless adapter, and batteries have died in nearly every cart, unless you happen to replace yours recently. If you have both of those, you're going to get the slower load in, and you're going to have to sit through a load of text. You don't have enough time to get to this, get to your continue in the time that you need to do the manip properly. So the adjustment for that is that you need to save 6 tiles to the right. You're going to save in this spot, and then you're going to use these offsets. For all intents and purposes, otherwise the manip is exactly the same. You're just 6 tiles forwards. It doesn't actually lose you any time to save here in any way. We could do this on the other manip as well. It's just that it's existed in another form purely because the first person who created this manip was Shiru, who has a wireless adapter, and I'm the one that's kind of documenting it all, and I have a wireless adapter. I actually only found out that this doesn't work in this particular combination thanks to a runner called Damon. He has a full username, but I just remember that Damon's there. Thank you for helping me out on that one. But yeah, so you need to bear that in mind depending on what your situation is. What are these timings for? Your first time tells you when to click continue. Second one is useful for one of the Abras. It's actually the less ideal Abra, but the timing's there for you if you want to catch that one. Third timer is when you throw the ball to catch the whatever Abra you get, presuming you didn't get the early one, the early one's for. And this final timing is for when you exit out of the Abra fight, if you're going to chain Tailo encounters off the Abra. If you're not, you can just get rid of these, or stop the flow timer from beeping once you've done your Abras. So we'll go into the Manip first. Manip has 6 possible frames. So you've got a 6 frame window to hit continue here once you've done your reset, and that will give you one of these 6 abras. There's 3 different types of abras: hollow, tricky, and early. So early is encountered early. The first section of movement for all of these is exactly the same. You're going to run along to here. I'm just going to take a repel so we don't have to sit through encounters. You run to this point, down here, here. You'll walk here for 2 tiles, like that, and then run off of that final tile. This manips this bug catcher, like that. And then you'll, around here, this spinner on the right hand side, Karen, will either spin or she won't, and whichever one she does tells you which of the abras you're on, hollow or tricky, and you have to adjust your movement, which I'll show in more depth in a little bit. But your early abra you'll encounter, I think it's this tile, it might be this one or this one. It's one of these 3 tiles you'll encounter it on. So you really don't want this one. It's actually the last one in the frame list, so you've gone late, ironically, even though it's called early. We don't really want this one if you can avoid it, but you take it, for newer runners, take whatever abra you get. So I'm going to, I'll do this now with flow time and we'll see which frame we get. Hopefully I get tricky, because that's what I've set my offsets on for, but I'll tell you whichever one it is. If Karen spins, it's hollow. If she doesn't, it's tricky. I messed up. So she didn't spin there. I was expecting her to spin. Actually, I presume I would mess up and get hollow. So she didn't spin there and I should have done the tricky movement. The best way I find to think about this is to expect to do tricky movement, and if she spins you do hollow instead. So that was a spin. So hollow, you walk all the way around her and then you follow that path to here and that gets you the abra. So there's a whole section where you basically do a loop around her. Make sure, flow timers, make sure once you've gotten to the tile that's below and to the right of her, that when you start moving upwards, you run upwards, you don't walk. I'll move back there actually just to explain that, because it's a little nuanced, you might not quite see it in YouTube. So you'll, right, oh, of course you spun. Right, so you'll get to here, you'll run all the way up to here, and you'll walk to there. From here you need to run up and then do the rest of it as a run. Don't walk upwards. That has to be a run. Hopefully we'll get tricky this time and I can show you the tricky movement. It's called the tricky movement because it's tricky. So there we go. That's the tricky movement. A little harder to explain. I would recommend just going and watching that back. Pause and slow down as you need. Quiet flow time. But the basic premise is, again, you run to this tile, you then run down 1 and up 1, walk up 1 and right 1. Come on, love, move out of the way. Any time, thank you. And then you'll run onto this tile and do a, oh nice, you do the square that I did. Anyway, I'm not going to keep showing it. You do the path afterwards, all as a run. So you only actually walk 2 tiles on that one. And yeah, that's pretty much... Oh no, I need to show how you catch them down. That's pretty key. That's how you manipulate the abras. That's the 3 different ones that you can get. I won't show off early abra. You'll know it when you get there. If you ever get it. How to actually catch them. So I'm actually going to get just a random encounter. I'm going to get you to listen. You need to listen to the background music because we're going to use the background music as a cue for when we go into the bag. Flow timer is going to tick down for us for when we throw the ball. But we specifically have to go into the bag at a set time as well. And the way I remember it is you'll get, as long as you mash through the first text box quickly enough, like relatively quickly, just mash as you would normally, you'll get access to the fight bag Pokemon run menu. And as you get access to that menu, the song will go do 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 do, and it's that 4th note that you need to go in the bag. And I'll do an example here, because it's not the best just listening to me. That's the note. I'll do one more so you can listen without me doing over the top. That's your audio cue. You need to bear this one in mind. This is your audio cue whenever you need to go in the bag. For any of the Abras, doesn't matter which one, and for any of the chained Talos later, they will all have that same timing for the bag. The reason for that is we can avoid setting a billion different beeps in flow timer that way. We just have a completely consistent bag timing, and you get very used to the timing very quickly. So yeah, we'll go and try and get some tricky Abras here, and we'll show you the ball throw timing as well, which flow timer will do for us. Alright, this is hollow. So this is basically the same. The only thing I need to note here is that your flow timer timing is slightly off. So, flow timer timing is set up for when you throw the ball on tricky. You're always going to hit the button on the very last beep on tricky. Hollow, you need to wait half a beat. You need to literally wait it's a quarter of a second afterwards. And that, again, that just saves having to have two different sets of beeps, depending on which one you get, which you can't really do in flow timer. And it's pretty comfortable to do. Like, we don't really want hollow. Like, we want everything off of tricky anyway. So you don't need to learn that. You do need to learn it. You'll want to get the Abras still. It's better that we set everything up nicely for tricky, and then if you get hollow, you can just get used to the backup and treat it as a backup. This will be tricky, so this will be dead on the beeps, if I'm good. And you throw a Pokeball here. So if you're doing hollow, I'd recommend throwing a Great Ball. I don't know what the window's like on Pokeball. And you're going to have to damage the Talo afterwards anyway, or whatever bird you're catching. You're going to have to damage it anyway, so Great Ball and Pokeball makes a little difference. For chained Manip off the tricky, we're throwing a Pokeball at it, because the frame window for a Pokeball is 19 frames, and for a Great Ball is 20, so it's barely any difference. And then having a Great Ball for the Talos is far better. It improves a lot of the frame windows for the Talos, and it's a very nice backup if you get a naff Talo. But yeah, that's your catch Manips for tricky and hollow. I say early has a set of beeps that happen. You won't actually be able to hear them. You'll notice that my offset does not have that set of beeps because I never hit early, and I don't want to ever hit early. But if you want to throw those, the 25, 390, or the adjusted times into yours so that you can catch the early properly, you can. You do the same bag timing, and then you just throw it with that middle set of beeps. But yeah, that's your Abra Manips. For extended Manips, if you want to get Talos off of them, you have to hit tricky at the moment. There were paths found by Shiru for hollow. We haven't been able to recreate them. Shiru doesn't remember them exactly. So they did exist, they no longer exist. I personally, at the moment, don't think we'll ever need them to exist. It's pretty comfortable and pretty reasonable to expect you to get consistent at hitting a 2-frame window with flow timer. Pretty comfortable. I hit it about 70% of the time, and I'm not great, so if you're a decent runner, you should be able to get good at that. And honestly, even if you hit hollow, you still get the Abra. You know, you can just go for a bird afterwards, go for a Swablu. It's 40%, it's not that bad. Or actually do Wingull Manip. I haven't got a guide for that because I hate it. I don't know how to do it. But do Wingull Manip. And just treat tricky as the nice bonus when you get the chained. But yeah. This is a convenient time to go into the path. So once you're done with your Abra encounter here, you're going to do regardless of anything, you're going to do exactly the same path, and all of the tailors that you can encounter exist somewhere along the path. I'm going to show you the path now. I'm going to stick a rappel up. I'd recommend, I don't know, you can't really clip this on YouTube, but bookmark this section and watch this back, because this is the path that you've got to learn, and you've got to learn it exactly this way. And that's it. The last possible tailor you can get is on that tile. And of the tailors, there are 7 different ones. So, I've written out the path here as well, if you wanted a written down version. That's just the way I notate it. That might not be the most comfortable way for you, so you might want the video instead. But there are 7 different tailors you can get, which I name stupid names, because stupid names are really easy to remember. So, you start here. The earliest one is after running 5 and walking down 1, which is here. So I should call that R5D1. The next one is I call zigzag, because it happens after this zigzag, and you'll encounter it here. The next one I call in the square, because after this bit you go right, up and left, and it creates a square, and you'll encounter it there. Level 8 is called the level 8 because it's level 8. It's, where do you go after this? It's down 1 and then up 2. And you'll encounter that there. After the run is called that because it's after the run. You'll walk up here, run down 3, up 1, you'll encounter that there. Back and forth is called that because it's after the back and forth. You'll go up, down, and you'll encounter it there. And then full Monty is called the full Monty because it's the full path. And that's with the extra up, down, and you'll encounter it there. Yeah, so every tailor is level 6 except for that one orange one that sits in the middle at level 8. You want level 6s because you can just teach fly to them straight away. You don't have to override to move. You'll notice that between R5 and zigzag, they encompass 6, 7, 9 of the 14 frames that you can hit. So these will be the most common ones you see. In the square and back and forth are the earliest 2. You really don't want to see them ever. If you're getting them frequently, you're too early with your offsets and you need to adjust them slightly. Yeah, is there anything more on that? Yeah, so it looks like a 14 frame window. I did say there were 14 different tailors you can get, but due to parity, which is a note that I mentioned here, you can only ever hit 7 of them at most. So very rarely it's 6 if lag isn't very friendly to you. Most of the time it's 7 frames, and that's with your exit timing on Abra. So when you press B to not nickname the Abra, that's a 7 frame window. The reason for that is because RNG moves twice as fast in a fight as it does in a bag. So once you throw the ball in the bag, you're locked into either the odds or the evens on the RNG frames. So if the first possible frame you can hit is that one, then you can't hit that one or any of the other ones that are on that parity, etc, etc. So my initial recommendation if you're learning this Manip, especially the chained bit, is to learn how to get the tailors consistently. Don't bother with catch Manips for a while. Learn to find the tailors, because even if you wanted to keep doing runs and you just wanted to start implementing it, finding the tailors is a big boon. You can just tackle them and throw a great ball. It's a really good chance of catching. Don't worry about the catch Manips yet. The catch Manips are the hardest bit, and especially if you screw them up, you'll miss it with a great ball, and then you have to tackle it and throw pokeballs, which is significantly less chance of catching. And if you don't believe me on that, watch my current PB, 234, where I get a tailor and then I screw up the catch Manip and then I damage it, which is an extra turn lost, and then it breaks out 3 pokeballs, which costs me about 45 seconds and basically undoes all the good that finding the tailor did in the first place. Definitely learn how to find the tailors first before learning how to catch them. And of note, the first 2 frames in the square and back and forth, I've actually changed this from the version 1 of this guide. They don't have catch Manips at the moment. The ones that I had originally aren't consistent, and I haven't been able to figure out frames yet. I haven't really looked into it because you should just never hit these. I'll be honest. I'm probably not going to figure them out. Someone else can tell me them if they want to. I won't figure them out right now because you shouldn't be that early, ever. They're, you know, you should always be in this kind of space here. I don't see full Monty ever. I don't see back and forth ever. I don't see in the square ever. I'm always in this space. Obviously can't always tell which one I'm hitting. I might be hitting the early zigzag or the later zigzags, but yeah. So, catch minutes themselves. Again, bag manip. The bag timing is exactly the same as the abras. And then the ball timing is according to the background music again. Now, you'll notice there's a lot of numbers here. This is, we're going to count notes with the music again. So, I'm going to just run into a random encounter here, and then I'm going to count the numbers that I count with the notes that you need to listen for. I'll do it a couple of times so that you can try and hear what I'm hearing. I'll do the bag timing properly as well. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. That's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's as far as you need to count. And where you need to throw the ball is basically dependent on which tailor you get, according to this table. You'll notice that none of them are below 4. The only reason for that is you don't really want to start counting at 1. You don't want to throw a ball on note 1 because you don't really count to it. So just start counting a little easier. And I think it's easier to count from that point in the music because it's the first note is very low and all of the rest are rising until the last note. So it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So forgive my crappy lack of tone. No, what is it? I can't sing. Forgive that. But yeah, I'll do this once more on a random encounter just so you can listen to the notes again, and then I'll try and show some actual chains on console. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's your timing. So now we'll try and get a few done on console. But for this guide I did come prepared. I have a video ready to show you all of the catch manips as well. But I'll do a few attempts now, so you can see how they go, and I can explain why things go wrong when they go wrong. I'm going to mash through this section of text pretty quickly. This is zigzag, so I want to go halfway between notes 4 and 5. That should be good. I'm pretty happy with that. So you'll notice as well, after each number, I've got in brackets early or late. That's a preference. That is not, you should go definitely a lot earlier or definitely a lot later. This is, if you were to hit note, so like on R5D1, if you were to hit note 6 dead on perfect and your bag timing was perfect, you will always get it. But there's a window of frames, and there's more frames before that note than there are afterwards. So it's, if you can prefer it, try and be spot on, you know, try and be like, oh, quite early, quite quick on it, if that makes sense. And similarly for like your level 8 one, let the note play before you clicked it, but we are talking about frames here. If you wait half of a second after the 6th note, you're going to miss it. We're talking like minuscule amounts. But yeah, that's pretty much all of it. I'll pull up the video now gonna mute my game. So here's some manips I prepared earlier. What he says. Come on, media player. Did I break it? Okay, weird. We got there. So yeah, I used emulator to record these, and I used a script to get all the way through to the Abras each time, and really only took over once the tailor was encountered. So I've cut out all of the chaff, and this will go in order of which Abras you would see normally. So we'll start with R5D1, and obviously I won't show in the square or back and forth yet, because we haven't got those. So that's where you get R5D1. And you want to go on the 6th note and be early. Worth noting as well that my script for this actually throws a great ball at the Abra and then throws Pokeballs at the Talos. That is actually fine. If you use a great ball on Tailo, it only makes the window wider. So I'm only making it harder for myself by using Pokeballs. This is zigzag, so we want to go halfway between notes 4 and 5, preferring early. You can also see my inputs at the top of the screen if you feel the need to follow those. They're not very enlightening, seeing as we're listening to the music. This is level 8. You want to wait for the 6th note and prefer late. That was quite late. I know this already works, but that was quite late. Remember as well, as Exarion mentions in his Mudkip guide, if you're slightly early going into the bag, you can be slightly late to adjust on throwing the ball, and vice versa. This is after the run. This is the one that I changed from the previous guide. I used to say go on the double notes. So this is now on note 4. The window for this is quite tight. It's like 8 or 9 frames. Not ridiculous by any means, but it wasn't worth waiting for the double notes that I mentioned last time in my version 1 of this guide. And this is the full Monty. This one has the same timing as after the run. So you'll go for the 4th note, but prefer being a little bit early. So that was spot on the 4th note. And obviously that one goes in as well. Well done me. I did a good job there. Yeah, that's pretty much the entire guide. The notes that you see on the left of the screen will be linked in the description below. They're basically an accompaniment to this video. You can't really, until you're familiar with the points in this video, you can't really use them on their own. Only other things to mention about them is that I show the early frames and the late frames around the Talos. Still don't know what these frames are yet, but like if you encounter an Incader at this point in your movement, you were a frame early. And obviously remember there's 2 different versions for being a frame early and a frame late and 2 frames late because of parity. Similarly for the Abras, you've got your results if you're slightly early and slightly late. And yeah, that's really it. If you are struggling with anything on this, or you want to know more, give me a shout on Discord or Twitter. I'm quite happy to explain stuff through. Somebody, let's say Damon, PM'd me about one of the Manips not working, and that's why we've got a V2 now, and we've got this section here about using without the wireless adapter, because I didn't realise it didn't work like that, because I don't have that set up. So now it does. Yeah, thanks for watching. Feel free to follow me on Twitch. I'll be doing Emerald runs at some point. Bye.